It's not just a truck, it's a desert racing monster that you can drive to Costco. This is why the Ford Raptor is still the pinnacle of performance off-road. Let's start with the origins of the Ford F150 Raptor and we'll take it from there. The inspiration for the Ford Raptor comes from a history of off-road rally driving in Baja, Mexico. If it's not already evident to you now, Ford got their inspiration from the Baja 1000. This kind of development and testing put the Raptor through its paces. So it's only fitting that if the inspiration came from the Baja 1000, that's where they'd take it to test it. These extreme conditions in the desert and dust put this truck through heat, sand, and tortured suspension. As far as I can tell, there is not a way to better test or torture a suspension than the Baja 1000. This may be the only factory truck born in the desert and not on a test track. Let's walk through the 3 generations of the Ford F150 Raptor. Gen 1 came out in 2010 and ended in 2014. It began with the factory Ford 5.4 liter V8 and was later updated to the Ford 6.2 liter V8. This real Baja brute was tested to the extreme. In fact, Ford put it through its paces without anybody knowing that this was a factory truck they were going to be selling to everyday buyers. And if you didn't love the design of the first generation, it seemed to only get better with Gen 2. With the Gen 2, they introduced the 3.5 liter EcoBoost. They dropped the weight with an all aluminum body, added a 10-speed transmission, and gave it a very smart suspension. I will admit some purists, including myself in some ways, missed the V8, but this V6 performance was something unheard of at its time. Moving on to Gen 3, Ford took the leaf springs out of the rear end and added some coils, improved the already amazing intelligent suspension, and gave you an option with 37-inch tires. And to top it off, they did bring a V8 back into the mix. The Raptor R with a 5.2 liter supercharged V8, Ford heard the people and gave them back the thunder. This V8 outperformed all of the competition in the combustion engine world. And whoo, listen to it roar. Throughout all the generations of the Raptor, they had amazing suspension components, but when they moved into the 2nd gen and 3rd gens, they added more control of those suspension components to your steering wheel. Fox Live Valve Adaptive Suspension gave you the ability to adjust your suspension on the fly, and drive modes were introduced: Baja, Rock Crawl, Sport, and more. And when they introduced the 37-inch package on the 3rd gen Raptors, this was the first time that a production truck came with 37-inch tires stock. Let's talk about some of the tech and the engineering behind all of this. They learned so much from the first generation, they moved to a full aluminum body on a steel frame for the 2nd and 3rd generations. And it seems every time that they iterate, they find a way to improve. Example being, going from the leaf springs in the rear on the 2nd generation to coil springs on the 3rd generation. This improved performance on and off-road, giving you one of the smoothest suspensions on a full-size pickup. The advanced 4-wheel drive system on a Ford F150 Raptor was astounding in a market where no one had seen so much power at your fingertips. So much control over the suspension and its abilities right there for the end user to interact with. And let's not dance around the truth. Most of these trucks are seeing pavement day to day and not these off-road trails. So having the ability to adjust these suspension components and the steering feel on the fly gave people an opportunity to make it a daily driver and a weekend warrior at the same time. So you have this amazing race tech built into your everyday driver that just makes you feel like you're ready to enter the Baja 1000 yourself. As Ford created demand for a market that had not yet existed, competition was inevitable. However, it took some time, a long time in fact. The Ram 1500 TRX came out with a supercharged V8 ready to annihilate the Raptor's V6. They took the engine out of a Hellcat and put it in a pickup truck with 4-wheel drive and 35-inch all-terrain tires. They waited about 11 years to compete, but hey, they're here and they're here to play. GMC decided to compete on a different level really, not necessarily in a Baja high-speed off-road racing kind of way. They came out with the Silverado ZR2. offering something that neither the Raptor or the TRX had, front and rear locking differentials. Not as much travel per se in the suspension or capabilities at high speeds, but very capable off-road. The TRX, when it came out of the gate, was ready with a supercharged V8 to compete with the Raptor R that had been introduced at nearly the same time. Now everybody hoped, at least those Ford guys, were hoping that the Raptor R would come out with more horsepower and more torque and better 0 to 60, and it fell flat in some ways. When Ford came out with the Ford Raptor R, they put it on 37s factory, stock. All Raptor Rs come with 37-inch all-terrains, whereas the TRX was sitting on 35s. Now that makes it a little more difficult to compete on that 0 to 60. With that said, Ram beat Ford in both the horsepower and torque numbers, but they did not beat them off the line. In independent testing, the Ford Raptor R comes in at a 0 to 60 of 3.6 seconds, while the Ram TRX came in at 3.7. 1 second behind the Ford Raptor R. Now, both from the manufacturer and from testing, those numbers came back, so they're not contested, and Ram will just have to accept that they can't keep up, even when the Raptor R has 37-inch tires stock. Now I can imagine the engineers at Ram thinking that they had taken down the Raptor for sure. And in some ways they had. They brought real competition, but the Raptor was not ready to give up its position. And you'll have to give it to the engineers over at Ford, because one of the major factors in making this happen was Ford's engineering. Because a full-size pickup like the Ram TRX, it's pretty heavy, and Ford knew that. Ram, when they introduced the 1500 TRX to compete, came in at 6,350 pounds, while the Raptor R came in at 5,950. Now to do the math, 400 pounds. That's what Ford engineers were able to do. And that 400 pounds might just be enough to make up that 0.1 difference in the 0 to 60. So here Ford is, finding the right balance between speed, suspension, weight, and livability, maintaining its dominance over the competitors. Not only that, Ram has dropped the TRX from its lineup. And when they dropped the TRX, they introduced the RHO. Now the body may look very familiar, but what's under the hood is what's changed. Ram introduced their high output twin turbo inline 6 with 540 horsepower, so as to stay in the market against the Ford Raptor. Now this RHO cannot outperform the Raptor R, but man, does it hold itself well against the traditional V6 Raptor. With the V6 Raptor having a 0 to 60 of 5.2 seconds, and the Ram RHO having a manufacturer number of 4.4 to 4.6 in the 0 to 60, much faster than the V6 Ford Raptor. But when you drive your vehicle every day, it's not all about the competition. There are pros and cons to every vehicle we choose to drive. Some of the downsides, kind of obvious. Pickup trucks, not well known for fuel economy, and the Raptor is no exception. Getting between 12 and 16 miles per gallon, not the best vehicle for commuting. And my goodness, is that thing wide. I've been to Paris, I have been to Boston, and these major cities, there's no way I would drive this truck. But if you're out in the country or areas where you've got tons of open road, sure. But keep in mind, door dings may occur in parking lots. Now outside of that, every time you look at a car, there is always something, a number that you're thinking about, and that is the price. This is where you might need to have some deep pockets, with the V6 starting at around $81,000. And that Raptor R we've been talking about, over $115,000. Beyond that, there are the markups. Some of these vehicles are hard to get a hold of, especially depending on where you are or where you want this thing to go. I'm talking about you guys overseas. If you're trying to get your hands on this, it may be very difficult, if not impossible, to get it imported. And even here in the US, you will find that a Raptor R does not generally sell for sticker. There are going to be some markups, and we're talking in the thousands, sometimes tens of thousands. Another downside that many may consider, especially those who are looking for a truck in the first place, is its towing capabilities. While still a truck and capable of towing vast amounts, it does not compare to heavy-duty trucks. Just to give you the examples within Ford, the V6 can tow 8,200 pounds, and the Raptor R 8,700. Now that pales in comparison to the over 18 and up to 40,000 pounds of towing that the Ford Super Duty can do. So if towing is your primary game, don't go for it. Now focused again on the everyday driving. It is surprisingly comfortable and smooth on everyday roads, especially with the adaptable suspension. The cabin and amenities, leather, heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, large touchscreen display, heads-up display in the newest generation. This truck has so many comforts and amenities, but as we talked about, you're gonna pay for them. Now for somebody who wants it all, or what may be considered it all, the Ford Raptor does meet a lot of people's needs and wants. That is, if you want terrible fuel economy with amazing performance. Now some may ask, why this truck would even matter? And I have to say that it's because it has defined a new category in pickup trucks. The Ford Raptor, if you will, was the first super truck, if we can call it that. The amount of engineering that went into making this truck as fast as it is, as capable as it is, and giving it a traditional warranty says that Ford truly trusts its engineers to come up with something amazing. Now this, and the many examples you'll find online of awesome experiences with the Ford Raptor, has made it a cultural icon, something that led to copycats later on. But Ford still seems to hold on to the title of high performance and off-road capabilities with the Ford Raptor. The Raptor isn't just a truck. It's proof that sometimes engineers build something not because they have to, but because they can. Now please, give me your input. Tell me what you think of these different models and the competition that has been created out of this Baja 1000 inspired pickup truck. Love it or hate it? I wanna hear. Tell me what you think in the comments below. And that is just some of the BS.